Okay.
I'll call our meeting into order. The first thing I just want to point out in the agenda, there's a slight error. I should have noted it before. Under this the proposed draft regulations we've been discussing, pesticide use on town property really should be pesticide and herbicide use, because glyphosate is herbicide. It's meant to kill. It's like Roundup. It's used to kill weeds. So. Okay. So our first on the agenda is an appointment for 59 Mill Valley Road, owner Brian Kimball, designer Neil Jackson, LUA reduction and separation between SAS and high groundwater to feed the Eljen System and use of sieve analysis instead of perc. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I will speak to that. My name's Roger Bacon. I'm the Title V independent contractor for the Quabbin Health District. 59 Mill Valley Road is a repair. There was a failed system. We had to go out and assess the situation. It is a very, has a lot of constraints on the property. There used to be an old barn on it, and there's a conservation area to the further south. So we really were trying to build or try to come up with a design that would fit nicely on this property and remain a gravity system. So Neil and I, after assessing the soils, determined that a sieve analysis would be the best solution rather than doing perc tests, because it's more conservative and we didn't really feel that we would be the best answer. So that's one reason we approved the sieve. We also discussed that the best solution is probably using an Eljen trench system, because you get a 40% reduction in the size of the area and would fit nicely on the property and not require any further problems or variances other than the approval of the sieve analysis and the 2-foot reduction. So it's a very straightforward design. He did a very nice job, and I don't see any issues at all. I'm fully in support.
Do we need to approve this as a variation, a variance?
Yes, we could,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
any
just have
discussion or
a
question?
couple questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The existing system is in the same spot, or is it closer to the house?
I think we crushed the tank and then put in a new tank exactly in this location. So
But the SAS is,
yes, the SAS is roughly in the same location, but not exactly, because you can't really rebuild it. It's a
Right.
new part of the property. That was actually part of the site constraints that we were trying to manage. Was try to get away from where it failed, put it over here. And that's why we both agreed sieve would be the best way to go.
at 59, that area is on town water, there's no well, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Bingo, you got it.
Okay. Good point.
All right, I move that we approve the exception as presented.
Yeah, I second it. And
I think we can do a
say-
voice vote, because
just-
none of our members is online.
Yeah, just,
All in favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Thank you.
Good work, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, next under the agenda, we're running a little ahead of time.
Yeah, they're out deliberating right now.
They're having a conference.
Yeah, I can go get them. I mean, they have,
No, we can
A
wait
minute.
3 minutes. We can move on to the minutes or something.
Do they need, well, we could see if they're ready. They may just be waiting.
yeah, I can see. I can-
Yeah, I mean, we're just like
I
2
mean, we
minutes ahead
can,
of time.
yeah, or we can do the minutes or.
Something, yeah, we could do that, yeah. See if they're ready.
Roger can talk about 116.
Mr. Chair,
Uh-huh.
He's called.
This is Granby
Your
Road. What?
if I may, my name is Jeffrey Blake. I'm here with KP Law for this next case. And I just wanted to let you know that I was kind of recruited at the very end. I have to leave at 6:30.
Oh, good, okay.
But
Okay, so
I don't think it's,
that's why we should get going. So you're representing our town.
yeah, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, nice
KP.
to meet you. Yeah, sorry, didn't.
They requested 5 more minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
All right,
Why
well,
don't
how
we
about?
well,
you-
it's 6:05 and our attorney has to leave at 6:30. It says 6:05, so I tell them they have 2 more minutes. It's 6:05, it's 6:05.
Chair says 2
Our
minutes.
attorney has to leave at 6:30. That's the way we're gonna do it. 2 more minutes. 2?
Okay.
All right, anything that will take 2 more minutes to
Yeah,
approve
the
the meeting?
minutes,
Just
the
the meeting
And then we
minutes.
would just start.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have, can we bring up the minutes?
yes,
I have one typo on the minutes, which is the last page in the packet, and they misspelled EDIC. Typo.
Oh, there we go.
So I move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that as corrected.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So I understand your, one of your partners is the usual town attorney, you're in the.
Yes, Greg
firm.
Cornwall.
Oh, I know, yeah, I know.
Greg, yeah. Greg is taking a well-deserved couple days off.
Probably on Saturday and Sunday too, so make it 4.
Yeah, okay, so he asked me this weekend if I could jump in.
There's a
Okay.
couple of things to sign, if you
Okay.
wanted to do that. One is the permit for funeral director, you would sign there. And
Okay,
then the other one is just a warrant for a
Andrea and I
spectrum phone
discussed
bill.
this, and I think it's better if you be here in person. So thank you.
So both this, all of us are signing this one too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Six of five.
very nice. Sign
So we're gonna open the public hearing by
this. Yeah, right,
roll call vote.
absolutely.
Okay.
So I'd like to open the public hearing, scheduled for 6:05 on appealing an official order from the letter from the Director of Public Health.
So moved that we open the
So
public
moved.
hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Roll call. Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye, okay, public hearing is open. So, the public hearing is regarding, Granby Road map 267 parcel 24.03. Nathan Evancic, I'm saying the name right? Vance?
Close.
Okay, Evancic appealing the official order letter dated, June 26, 2026. The Director of Public Health rescinding septic permit 24-32 due to proposed septic system is designed for a 3-bedroom, 1-house plan, show 4-bedroom per Title V definition. Okay, so, I understand we have 2 attorneys here. Get one of the attorneys to come up.
How should we proceed?
Yeah, we
Who
could,
goes first?
we could proceed with you folks first. Yeah.
Simplify this.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
Attorney Blake and I were able to speak just beforehand, shall I?
You can sit if you like.
Go ahead, yeah.
Sure, thanks.
One of the disadvantages of being very tall.
Yeah, they have some hanging.
Force of habit. So thanks for hearing us. I'm Peter Lane, Fierce Bloomberg Home in Northampton. I'm here for the property owners, Nathan and Anna Evancic. I submitted some papers beforehand with our position. We believe it's an absolute right of the property owner to overcome any presumptive count of bedrooms with a deed restriction. And I provided a proposed deed restriction that would run with the land and in perpetuity would limit the bedroom usage to 3. And we would argue that as a result of that, you should accept it and approve a design flow for the septic system that's adequate for a 3-bedroom. I understand from town council that's not the position that the town would probably agree to. So in the event that you would rule against that and uphold the Board of Health's, seems like it wasn't so much a denial as a rescission of approval of the 3-bedroom design flow. So in the event that you would uphold that rescission and still require 4 bedrooms, I think we'd love to take this opportunity to turn this into more of a discussion to understand what is objectionable about the building plans themselves, to understand what could be done to modify it to still go forward with a 3-bedroom design flow septic system, if that's at all possible.
Did you want to respond to that?
I'm certainly, I am. I certainly am. My name is Jeffrey Blake. I'm from KP Law, your town council. I've looked at what my brother sent over, and we do take a difference of opinion. He believes that it's the property owner's absolute right. We don't. He cites a land court case. We've had a recent case in Superior Court, a Lakeville case, where there was a similar issue, and the court found that our count of the bedrooms were appropriate. Now, I suppose I did speak with my brother right after, right when he got here, and I do apologize for him and everybody else that I got this case relatively late in the game this weekend, and I didn't get a chance to reach out to him. But I do think there are a couple of options here, right? You could, but I think the health agent has looked at the original plans that were 3-bedroom did not include a finished basement. In that finished basement, there is a room that could be construed as could be counted as a bedroom, which would make it 4. So you could not finish the basement, or it's my understanding that the lot will handle a 440 gallon per day system. And so I'm not an engineer, but I'm thinking a fairly minor redesign could get you 440 and everybody would walk away and be happy.
Let me answer the question. I want to understand better this proposal for deed restriction in perpetuity. Are you saying that it's possible, and is it legally possible even, to have a restriction so that the house would be restricted to 3 bedrooms in perpetuity, even if it changes owners in the deed, so that there never could be more than 3 bedrooms there?
That's exactly it. I'm not sure if every member of the board has our proposed grant of Title V bedroom count deed restriction in front of them. Be happy to provide copies.
But I have one quick question. We're talking about the physical facility. How are you guaranteeing that one of those spaces in the basement is not being used as a bedroom? I guess that's my question when you talk about a deed restriction. I'm no lawyer, I'm no engineer either, but how that doesn't seem to solve the problem, because what the use of those spaces are internally, those spaces are there, and based on the calculations and the observations of the public health director and our consultant, that translates into 4 bedrooms, which then triggers a requirement around what your septic system has to be.
Without a doubt, 310 CMR 15.02 calls for a presumption of 4 bedrooms based on the room count, without a doubt. That very same regulation in the same paragraph that tells the health inspector or health director how to count and what presumption to make, that very same paragraph contains another sentence that specifically says the homeowner can overcome the presumptive count by submitting a deed restriction for less bedrooms. It's exactly what it says. I appreciate what Attorney Blake has provided in a recent decision that he got in Olivera versus Town of Lakeville. I appreciate it. I appreciate that a Superior Court judge has looked at this, and by the way, in a much less detailed decision, has indicated that I'm going to, for the benefit of the doubt, say similar circumstances, but I have not had a chance to digest this full background, that a Superior Court judge has said that a Board of Health does not necessarily have to accept what this judge refers to as the relabeling of what it initially presented as a bedroom as a home office on revised plan. I will say that I think the decision that I cite in my letter is a little bit more instructive and helpful. It's Stevens versus the Sherburne Board of Health. Its citation is 25 LCR 506. Pages 510 through 511 in particular are helpful. It really makes clear that this is not discretionary. It's not up to the opinion of the board, and that a homeowner has the absolute right to restrict the bedrooms and overcome the presumption through this grant of a Title V bedroom count deed restriction. The case that I cite also very specifically admonishes a Board of Health for speculating about what future use could be made of the rooms in the basement. In this case that I cited, specifically about a finished basement. And what it admonishes the board to understand is that that's not evidence. Your speculations or concerns about what could happen in the future is not evidence. It's speculation. And that the homeowner has the right to overcome the presumptive count by providing a deed restriction. And that's what we've provided. And so to answer Dr. Gotzigen's question, yes, we are proposing a deed restriction which runs with the land in perpetuity. And it says that any homeowner, whether it is the Evancics or subsequent purchaser, any homeowner cannot use these rooms for more than 3 bedrooms if they have the proposed septic design flow. And so that would be in perpetuity. As it says in paragraph 3 of the proposed deed restriction, the provision runs with the land. We further in paragraph 6 offer that it's going to be incorporated, this grant, this deed restriction will be incorporated into deeds, mortgages, leases, any instrument of transfer. And that my clients have an absolute contractual legal obligation to put it in the deed transfer, to put this deed restriction in any deed transfer document if they go to sell in the future. I believe Ms. Amoroso.
Yeah, don't worry about the name.
All right. Sicilian and Irish here myself. And Ms. Creed and I had this conversation beforehand as well. It seems like the question is how? How do you know what my clients are doing or what future purchasers are going to do? Well, this town, like every town in the Commonwealth, has police powers. You have a Board of Health. You have a building inspector. You certainly can't just knock on people's doors and go in and say, hey, we're here for a spot check. But you certainly have the ability to enforce this instrument that will be recorded with the Registry of Deeds. Every future purchaser will be on notice that they cannot use these rooms for more than 3 bedrooms.
Question.
I have a follow-up question too. but
Go
go ahead.
go first, finish it.
I guess I just want to ask Roger and Andrea, is there a precedent for this? Has this been done before under this Board of Health? I was on the Board of Health years ago and now I'm back on it again. And so just checking more recently, has this strategy been used in any similar
Not
circumstance?
for new construction.
Okay,
Dave?
okay, thank you.
Dave?
Yep.
Okay. We've heard a whole lot of MGL references in court cases. The reality is, and I'd like to hear how you would enforce this if we were our town. We have enough trouble enforcing something we actually can do and walk into premises, and that's tobacco regulations. And some tobacco salespeople follow the law and some don't. How would we enforce this as a practical matter other than somehow expecting our building inspector to show up at the property once a year or something like that and see whether there's a bedroom. Oh, that's just we're storing it there. I'm concerned, let's suppose this is agreed to, and 15 years from now, they sell it, and they do everything exactly according to their signature. And then 15 years from now, they sell it, and somebody buys it, and then 10 years later, there's one person who is using one bedroom there and needs the money and starts renting the space to UMass students. Oh, we have all of these vacant rooms. I think it's 8, isn't it? Is it 8 rooms?
Over.
Something like that. Not just the basement,
Right.
not just the 3 bedrooms, but there are so-called offices and stuff. So they put 2 or 3 students in there, and suddenly you got a dozen additional people using the same septic system. And how are we protecting the groundwater and the neighbors and all that? How would you, in a you're here from Northampton, you understand the valley and the small towns. How are we supposed to enforce that if we agree to what you're asking for? We could raise taxes, because we do it, 2.5 override to enforce one house.
Again, you have the powers of enforcement that you have for any property. And it may be that you don't know until you're aware that there are complaints. But let's say the neighbors complain that there's a lot of coming and going. And so that triggers, I don't know, something, an inspection by the building inspector or an inspection by the Board of Health. Like, given whatever the complaint is. Let's say it's a complaint of too many people coming and going. And that triggers the police power of the building inspector to conduct an investigation or inspection under the state sanitary code. And then it's determined that he gets in there and he looks around and he sees that there are bedrooms in 6 rooms. There's beds in 6 rooms. Absolutely has the ability to enforce this and enforce the state sanitary code as it might apply. So I don't know exactly how it is enforced, but you will absolutely have the ability to enforce and to hold that property owner liable for their violation of this deed restriction.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
Just to piggyback on that question, in order to do any sort of housing inspection, we need permission from the occupants to enter into the house. So in this particular case, we'd have to have the property owners agree to let us in, to check all the rooms, to make sure it's only being used as 3 bedrooms. They can always deny access, which can happen. And then we have to seek an administrative search warrant in housing court, which requires counsel to be involved. And that's money that the town has to spend in order to get an administrative search warrant for us to go in. We can't just go in without permission. So even if we have a deed restriction to show that, yes, we do have police powers and we can enforce, everybody has a right to refuse entry for any sort of public official, and we'd have to have just cause to go in. I think just speculation, we just want to check and make sure that may not be reasonable enough cause to go into someone's private home and check all the rooms. And now we're expending a cost to the town for legal expenses in order to take this further to court. So it can be done, but I would not waste the staff time or the town's money in order to push this if we had to do actual enforcement. And then to do that moving forward on any other property like this, it's not feasible or reasonable for us.
Like to add on to what Ken's going, I mean, that might be the extreme, having college kids renting out, that's probably the
They
extreme.
did it next door to me.
Well, no, but it's not counting the fact that happens quite often is parents move in with the kids in these houses. So that becomes a parent's bedroom. Nobody knows nothing. It never goes public or nothing, but it becomes a parent's bedroom. That's more
Yeah,
common
yeah.
than, I would say, the college kids renting out a bedroom here and there, you know?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, yes,
I'm probably the only one in this room that's ever enforced one of these.
yes.
And I've enforced a number of them. And I can tell you, what my brother said is correct. We have police powers in what the director of health said is correct. They're very difficult, right? The easy one is when you have a whole bunch of college kids going in and out and you got the neighbors complaining left.
So obvious.
That's easy.
Right, because that's
And
obvious.
the harder ones are when you're using what was labeled a den or a playroom or whatever as a bedroom. And now you've got 8 people in there. So, my brother is correct that you could accept a deed restriction, but where we differ is, I don't believe that they have an absolute right. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. Let's play that out to its illogical conclusion. I build an 8,500 square foot house with 9 different offices in it and three bedrooms that are labeled. And I say, well, I'm just going to put a deed restriction for 3 bedrooms. There's 11 bedrooms in that house. You just might call it something different. And that's what Title V is designed to prevent. And especially here where that property could accept a 4-bedroom design. I think that's a quick and easy solution. But again, it's your call. You could grant the deed restriction, and he's 100% right. You file it. It's in the back of Title V. These deed restrictions are absolutely allowed by Title V, but they're not. Again, I just disagree that he has an absolute right for the deed restriction. I do think you have discretion.
I was looking for the deed, that's what I was looking at in our packet, if the deed restriction section was here, and to see if that overrode the equation for measuring total number of rooms, which is the total number of bedrooms is total number of rooms divided by 2, and with at least 8, that makes it 4 bedrooms. So I was just looking for that, what your colleague said, and I can't, it's not in our packet, but it's there. I believe you, but it's just, doesn't necessarily override our ability to make a decision using the equation that you noted and what you sent us.
Right, and that's
Okay.
Title V, and our primary responsibility is to be sure that public health and the health and safety of whoever is living in that dwelling, and to hear that a 4-bedroom design is feasible, and I understand that that's bigger and potentially more expensive, but frankly, I feel like the owners in the long run, it's to your benefit to just do this way and not worry about it in the future. If you're gonna sell it, if you're gonna, have whatever it is, if it's, that's just my comment, my personal
Bigger is
opinion.
typically better.
That works, that meets Title V. I understand that there's an alternative, but frankly, in the long run, you would be better off going with a 4-bedroom design and build it that way, and that will save you some headaches down the road, is my guess.
Yeah, I saw Andrea's hand first, and now the owner wants to comment. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did have an opportunity to speak with Neil Jackson, who did not want to come tonight. He was the engineer for the project for the septic. And when I sent him the house plans that were submitted to the building department that I ended up reviewing, those were not the original house plans that were submitted to him in order to design for the septic system. So normally when soil testing's done, and then he goes to design the septic system, he likes to do some sort of plan of the home so he knows the accurate amount of bedrooms to design for, because he's very well aware of the definition in Title V that, it's presumed to have 3 unless you have more than 8 rooms, then you have to start counting all these accessory rooms like child's playroom and offices, finished basements, living rooms. It's all a room that needs to be counted. And this colored one that you have here was what was originally submitted, and that's clearly a 3-bedroom design. That is a 3-bedroom septic design, 3-bedroom house, without a doubt. What was submitted to the building department later on was different from this, so plans must have changed. But the septic design was never updated to reflect those changes. So now we have additional rooms, a finished basement. And so that's why, yes, they were originally approved, the plans for 3 bedrooms, but it was based on a different house design that was submitted to the engineer. And that's not what the longer set of plans that you have at your desk, that is what was submitted to the building department that I reviewed. Doing the total room count, it would make it a 4-bedroom design. And you are right, Gail, and Jeff, the property can support a 4-bedroom design. I would like to see the property owners get their dream house, you know? I mean, if that's the house that they want with the finished basement, the office downstairs, the child's playroom, you know, I don't understand the logic with having a deed restriction because you're restricting the use of that property that's not enforceable by us. And later on down the road, if maybe they wanted to finish the basement or, you know, do something where they could use it as a 4-bedroom, they would have to now upgrade the system where it's already been installed.
Right.
And if we do run into situations where you did grant a deed restriction for 3 bedrooms, they under-designed it for 3 when it should be a 4-bedroom design based on the total room count, you could overload the system if it gets used as 4 bedrooms. If a friend needs to stay for an extended time or family member and they've got an extra room they can convert to a bedroom, we're not gonna know. No one's gonna notify us. We're not gonna check periodically. Now you've got additional flow going into the septic system, which can only accommodate flow from a 3-bedroom. And once that system fails, it's an imminent health hazard, imminent, immediate.
Right.
So it's not something that's gonna gradually, it'll happen slowly, but if it fails, it's a big expense. It's a very big expense to put in a new system when it fails versus just adding in that extra line to make it a 4-bedroom. You know, Title V allows us to be protective and conservative of the environment and public health. And that's why we enforce that code the way that we do. And it's up to the board to grant variances and deed restrictions when feasible and applicable. In this particular case, I would disagree with a deed restriction.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Mr. Evancic, you had something to say? Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
first time doing this, so.
Okay.
Never.
Yeah, no worries.
I brought plans with me, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Nervous, so please bear with me.
I don't know.
So we.
I believe, apologize for.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that the septic.
Mhm.
You know, you had mentioned the number 330 gallons per day, or something along the lines
Mhm.
of that. Right now, our system is a 3-bedroom
Mhm.
system. Neil Jackson did indeed design it and all that stuff, and it has the capability for 660 gallons per day. That's 55, assuming 2 people per bedroom, that's 55 gallons per person per day, which is, honestly, I could leave a sink on all day and I don't think I'll ever hit that number. But that's besides the point. A lot has changed since my wife and I submitted the plans here. You know, in that time, I got a new job. I work remotely from home. My wife works full-time from home. At the moment, we're in one room. We're both very meeting-heavy jobs, so we're having to sit there and talk about, oh, okay, you got a call at this time, I'll go take it from the kitchen. And so for us, you know, as we got further along, you know, decided like, okay, you know, it would be nice to have this space. And so, you know, we saw the basement and just said, you know, I can put my office down there. I tend to run hot, so I like the cool basement regardless. But you know, in terms of, I understand there's a lot of hesitations about what can be done. And, you know, all I could say is, you know, my wife and I are trying to build this house in a state that it's already hard enough to build a house. We already have a housing crisis. And we're
You
just,
already have a what?
housing crisis, you know,
Yes.
it's limited. And so we're just trying to build our dream.
Mhm.
You know, I guess in terms of who's gonna be possibly living, I could tell you my wife here is an immigrant. Her parents live in Mexico. So I think that the customs department would have an issue if someone came up for, well, not customs, you know, immigration would have an issue with it.
Yeah.
You know, we're currently going through immigration law right now, and then we're having to rely on people. So we're just going through a lot of lawyers just to live the life that we want to live. And, you know, I just, you know, I just want you to look at the plans, and I just want you to understand, like, what we designed here is strictly out of convenience for us. You know, we're not looking to rent, we're not looking to have in-laws, God forbid. Love you, Mom, I don't want to. But, you know, in terms of the speculations 15 years down the road, you know, you think the past like 5 to 10 years, you know, we never knew COVID was going to happen. That changed the world. So like, there's a lot that can happen in the time that happens. You know, my wife and I are just looking to build a dream home with how things are. Just, I look at this house and I think, how do I want to use this house in 10 years? Kids, they're going to grow up. There's going to be toys everywhere. I'm a bit of a neat freak. So the idea of having toys in a basement or a living room stresses me out. So that's the whole point of the playroom and stuff like that. But, and you know, the concern about having future expenses of enforcing this and all that stuff, it's hard to hear that, because it's what I'm hearing is, okay, we don't want to take the cost, so we're just going to push it back on us. I mean, to do another septic system is probably going to be $20,000 to $25,000 based off of redesign of the house and all that stuff. And we've already put in the well. So we're locked into where that well is. And we have to just, if we have to go to a 4-bedroom, we have to pray that it's going to fit. It took us about a year to close because when we had Neil Jackson look at the property under the Massachusetts perking rules, there was only one chance to do this. You know, because if we drilled that hole and it came up wrong, that hole can never be tested again. So Anna and I are working with a limited lot already. It's what we feel. And so we were just looking to, and I apologize, I'm rambling here. Just looking to understand, like, what can we do, like, to either get this approved, or what needs to come out to make it the 3 septic system that we already have? Because again, we live in an expensive state. Just can't fathom between his costs, immigration costs, engineering costs, just taking on more.
Yeah.
So we're just looking to just clarify and to understand what is needed here. We're just a young couple looking to live in this town.
Yeah. I'm certainly completely, sympathize with you wanting your dream house and your wife coming up from Mexico, and with our current state of affairs being what they are, there's stresses on you. In the context of your total cost for your dream house, I guess the question is, how much would it be upgrading? Now, all the house has not been built, these are just plans, right?
The well has been dug,
Yeah.
and it's been cleared, all that stuff.
So I'm just thinking how much, in the context of the total cost for this whole project, is putting in a septic good for 4 bedrooms instead of 3. It doesn't seem to me that would be a prohibitive type of
And that's,
expense, since that is what our reading of the law shows, and protects you, in case you have a big family, lots of kids, and then kid wants to live with you down the road, home from college, and has a friend, all the things that my colleagues have been saying.
And it probably will increase the value of your house when you're ready to resell it in 3 years or 30 years. Because those other offices could be sold as bedrooms and other people could use it. So it would be an investment in effect. Basically, you're prohibiting somebody from buying it. You'd reduce the number of potential buyers. by not having, by having this deed restriction, which at least we wouldn't necessarily enforce, but title companies would.
Yeah, because maybe you'll have 3 kids, 4 kids, I mean, you know, so you can never
You can't
tell.
buy it from us because there's this deed
Yeah.
restriction.
If I may,
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of like having a high amount of kids, it's 2026. I can't afford that. I just right off the bat.
Let's always win the
I
lottery.
want to wipe that illusion off.
Girls win the lottery.
But I also want to understand, like, in terms of like buying a seller for the house, restricting ourselves. A house went on the sale on that street within the past year. It sold within 7 days. I mean, the house,
Right.
I'm not worried about the
Right.
future, right? I can't, right? I'm worried about just building a house and getting in. Because it just, I don't envision us in ever struggling to sell the house on that street. It's on the golf course.
Mhm.
It's a nice street. We're happy. We're looking to call it our home. That's
No,
all we're
it's a
looking
nice
to.
street. I rode my bike up there today. It probably passed your lot. Yeah,
It's the empty lot right next to
it's
the yellow
beautiful.
house.
It's very nice.
So
It's
we're
real
just
nice.
looking to
Right
understand
there,
what can be
yeah.
done within, within reason. Because
Yeah.
again, like, I understand, like, yeah, it would be considered an investment to do that, right? But then it's like,
Sure.
we have to hope, we've already drilled the well,
Mhm.
to increase on to a 4-bedroom septic system. It's like, we have to hope that there's enough space. It's already been a difficult lot to perk.
There's enough.
There's,
space.
it sounds like there's enough space and it's doable.
There's no issues with designing for 4. And then talking to your engineer, it would cost like $650 to have him redesign and submit the application.
But that's also redesigned, but that's not taking into account all of the other stuff, like the extra material. I mean, I'm shocked that he said $650, because when I had to go through this whole process in terms of getting it designed, getting it approved, all that stuff, that was.
Well, the initial, just the redesign is not a full
not
design again. It's already been designed. He's just adding for an extra bedroom, what, 10 to
Yeah.
15% or something?
It's just,
Not even probably.
Yeah,
he's just revised, he would just be
Revising.
revising the plan,
Right,
which
the
is
bulk
not.
of the plan is already been
Yeah.
designed, so that the revision to add on is generally not, I hear what you're saying as well, and, every house is a home, but from our perspective as well, we have to think about, at least I do, I don't know how my colleagues think about it. Whenever a house is built, that house could be around, I live in a house that's almost 200 years old, so who knows how long that house will be there? And our job is to think about the health and well-being of the people who live there, as well as the health and well-being of the environment in which that house is located, particularly when you're talking about wells and septic systems. So that's part of, where we come from. We understand that some of our decisions, a lot of our decisions result in costs
Yeah.
to people, and we try to be sympathetic to that, but
Okay.
anyway, sorry.
So, are there any other folks who want to say anything, ask questions, or comments or suggestions?
I'm getting a sense of what people already think. And certainly, town council informed me of the town's position before we started the hearing. I just want to say this, and then I would like to see if we can kind of come to a conclusion based on Nathan and Anna's wishes.
Mhm.
What we're doing here in this level of speculation about what could and couldn't happen, I really think it runs contrary to the regulation itself, which the exact language of the regulation is that the applicant may design a system using design flows for a smaller number of bedrooms that are presumed in this definition by granting the approving authority a deed restriction limiting the number of bedrooms to the smaller number. I don't know how to read that any other way than the land court read it.
Can you give me the exact number, MGL?
Yeah, it's 310 CMR.
MGL 310 CMR?
No MGL.
CMR.
It's state regulation. 310 CMR 15.002. it's Title V. It is the regulation. And then 1502 is the definitions.
Okay.
And in the bedroom definitions, as I said, Ms. Creed, absolutely correct in her counting of the revised plans. She counted the appropriate number of rooms to come up with the presumptive bedroom count of 4. But again, the last sentence of that very same paragraph says the applicant may design a system using design flows for a smaller number of bedrooms than are presumed in the definition by granting the deed restriction. And again, in the Stevens versus Sherborne case, the level of speculation that we engaged in this room this evening, including with testimony from town council, is exactly what the land court has determined the board shouldn't do. So I put that out there. One other thing I would just like to rebut is this concern about enforcement in the future. Well, let's say it's a 4-bedroom and a 4-bedroom design flow is approved. And then in the future, somebody has 4 children and invites their in-laws to live with them. And, you know, there's 8 to 10 people in a 4-bedroom house. How are you going to enforce that? How will you know that it's there for you to enforce? I think that is why the land court decided it the way it did, to admonish boards to not engage in this level of speculation and to just allow the property owner their right under 310 CMR to do what they're going to do and design a smaller system. That said, I would just ask in the alternative, if you're not going to reverse Ms. Creed's decision, respectfully, and I really do understand where everybody's coming from. I understand the environmental concern. I understand the community concerns. I am a resident as well as a lawyer in Western Massachusetts. I live in a tiny town up in the hills. And I get it. However, there are property rights, and I think 310 CMR 15002 establishes one of those property rights. So to the extent you're not going to reverse Ms. Creed's decision, on behalf of my clients, I would ask, and I believe Attorney Blake indicated that there could be options for redesign of the building plans to leave in, without a deed restriction, leave in a 3-bedroom design flow. Is that?
Yes, you could, I think you could not finish.
Just leave the basement completely unfinished?
I think that would meet your requirements, wouldn't it?
Is there another way?
I would
Other than modification of the house?
I would suggest that if you want to explore different options, this board could continue this hearing to a time and date certain, 30 days out, or 45 days
Or
out.
our August meeting, yeah.
Yeah, to give them an opportunity
Okay.
to
So
explore.
we would, on the record, request that you continue, allow me time to
Continue?
confer with my client, and then we'll let you know, I suppose, what, through submission to Ms. Creed, if we
Redesign.
would
Yeah.
agree to not finish the basement.
Okay.
I move that we continue this to
We
the
could really
to the
continue
August
it?
meeting.
It's gonna be to a time and
To
date
a
certain.
time,
Oh,
that's
Time and date.
When's our next meeting?
August. The August
August
meeting?
24th, I think is the
Yeah,
date.
third Monday.
Fourth
Fourth
Monday.
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 Fourth Monday.
And we make it at.
August 24th.
6:05.
Do 6:05 again?
Yeah.
I second that motion. You move that,
Okay.
Ken?
Yeah.
I second
All
that.
in favor?
Wait,
Oh,
probably need a roll call.
Does that work for you all?
Have a year to build the house. Pushing that month, that's that's compressing. We only have a year. It's not good.
Please, continue. We do request a continuance.
You did do request. Okay, we should do a roll call vote. Then, Jim,
Yeah.
favor?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
Gail?
I'm in favor.
Yes.
Okay, so moved. So the public hearing, will continue, and thanks for coming.
I have to, I don't mean to be rude, but I have to.
We stayed 20 minutes later than you said you could. Thank you very much. So we will continue our next August meeting, and public hearing should be adjourned.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
8:24 at 6:05.
8:24,
Yep.
yeah. 6:05.
Yeah, it's the fourth Monday.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay,
Appreciate the
thank
opportunity.
thank you.
Great to meet
Okay,
And good luck to you.
yeah, very good. Good luck to you. Okay,
Hope your parents do come.
very good. Very good. Okay.
Oh, 160 North. We've got another item.
Another,
You do?
You do.
I know. I'm
Okay.
gonna explain it to you.
you've been busy. Okay, Roger.
All
On
right,
to the next item.
do you need me?
Yes.
We need you.
No, I know, but the microphone.
So Roger Bacon to discuss Title V violations at 116 North Street.
Okay.
Okay,
Not to take this too long, but this is a
Yeah.
good example of what happens over time.
okay,
On May 2nd, 2025, a Title V inspection report was done on 160 North Street because the property was going to be put up for sale. It failed because the system, the inspector found that the tank was cracked and was partially in a driving area, that it was full of sludge, it had the baffles were not working properly. He explored the septic leach pit, which was also full of sludge, and the pipe going from the tank to the leach pit was full of sludge. That system was put in on July 17th, 1970, maybe not on the 17th, but in 1970. So it's 56 years old,
whoa,
and they've clearly been neglected. So the inspector did an excellent job of failing the system, but he also noted that from his count, that there were 5 bedrooms in the building. Their original design from 1970 was 3 bedrooms. And also, it was based on pre-Title V criteria. So it is not salvageable. On the 5th, May 5th, the owner of the property hired Neil Jackson, and we did a repair situation. We did 2 percs. We did 1 perc, and we dug 2 holes, got the technical details for it. And then nothing happened. The property changed hands at the end of May 2025. When this happens, we put these Title V inspection reports that are failures on a tracker. And we wait 1 year, because Title V, when you have a failed inspection report, gives you 2 years to fix it. So after a year, we hear nothing, we don't hear plans, even though we knew that the data had been collected, I start investigating. What is going on here? And that usually entails, I call the original system inspector, I check with the pumping companies, and I discovered that the current owner of this property took matters into their own hands and decided to fix the failed septic system. And had the tank pumped, and then with his Kubota, which I know he had because I called him up to confront him on this, said, oh yeah, I went and fixed it myself. That is a serious violation of Title V. 15019 disposal and system installer's permit says no individual shall engage in the construction, upgrade, modification, emergency repair, or expansion of any on-site system without first obtaining a disposal system installer's permit. And under disposal system construction permits, no person shall construct, upgrade, modify, or expand a system without the disposal construction permit, which has been issued by the approving authority after you've done these Title V's. So the letter, which I guess I just saw today from the owner, kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. That individual doesn't appear to have any interest in fixing the system. And I explained to him when I talked to him that this is not a repair, this is a replacement for a variety of reasons. He even indicates, well, I might get a second opinion. It doesn't matter, a second opinion won't count, because even if he found an inspector who would give him a pass, the system can't handle the 5 bedrooms that might be in the property. The assessor's office has it listed as 4 bedrooms. So it's clearly not 3 bedrooms. And I'm also concerned, which he put in his note to you, that there may be ADUs potential on the property,
Maybe one?
additional dwelling units.
Yeah.
And the truth is, there's one already there in one of the buildings. I have no idea where the septic goes for that thing, but it clearly looks like someone had been living in it in the past,
So that would be at least 6 bedrooms.
at least 6. So this is disconcerting, because right now the building is empty, but it's very near the bus route. It's right on the potential for students to be renting, not that I know what's gonna happen, but if that dwelling fills up with people, that existing, and they try to use the failed existing system, that leach pit's gonna overflow and go right down into Montague Brook. It's less than 200 feet away, and it's gonna be a mess. So there really potentially no solution other than, in my opinion, to order the property owner to replace the septic system. Technically, they have, or he has 9 months left on his official inspection form, because you get 2 years. We burned through the first year. We're now into July, so you assume August, by next May, there better be a new septic system there, or you've got a problem. So the easiest solution, I think, would be to order the property owner to at least submit a plan for repair, so he can get a disposal construction permit. You could give him 90 days to do this, but that it should be repaired before the end of the 2-year period.
Repair or replace?
I'm sorry, replace. If I used repair, I meant replace. There's no repair here. Also, I would add, if you obtain the disposal construction permit, you have 3 years in which to finish it. And you could ask for an additional year if you needed it. So it's in the best interest of this property owner to get this done as soon as possible. But based on that letter I saw today, I'm not optimistic.
And it's vacant now, you said?
It appears to be vacant. I actually went out and took a look at the property. I took 2 pictures.
Is there anything we could do to prevent tenants coming in until this is repaired?
I'm not a legal.
Does it have a C of O?
I mean,
A certificate of occupancy?
Occupancy?
It probably does.
Could that be revoked by the?
I'm not
Do you know
sure.
anything about the thing?
I did ask Paul once if you can Paul, the building inspector, and I didn't get a positive feedback that you can revoke an existing house's occupancy.
because it is down as a failed system, but
It is.
there's no breakout, anything like that. Yeah.
No, the house was unoccupied for
So
2-3 years.
Time to rest.
So
Right.
exactly, and
So the first
And it
6
was
months
full of
is gonna blow
sludge.
out.
Right,
Right.
once you had occupants in
And
there.
then it's up to the landowner, the landlord, I should say, to take care of people that are already living in there.
correct,
He's got to house them while it's being fixed, so that's gonna be another additional cost for
right,
the landlord.
right. Assuming, I mean, it's rented. I have no idea what
Right,
will
right.
happen.
Rented or,
But the owner does not live in Belchertown. He lives in Charlton.
Andrew,
Yeah, as far as the occupancy, if they're changing the use of what the original occupancy permit was for, so if it was originally a single family and then now they're turning into a multifamily with, different rentals, that could trigger a change in use of the property, there would be a need for a new occupancy permit from the building department. But again, it's empty right now,
It's
so
empty right
it's
now,
not, we can't say that it is being used as rental, but that would be really the only time that they would get involved.
just curious, there's nothing in the law that says that this house, this property with an obviously failed system could be sold like that? And isn't there part of the building inspection process? Or septic systems?
You can You can sell property with a failed system, but the new owner
So it has to
takes
be-
the responsibility to fix it.
Yeah.
I did check with Paul because there appeared to be some renovations on the property, and he said no building permits were taken out on the repair of the
No
property.
problem. Okay.
Oh, so it's in some kind of violation of CMO right now.
I'm not the building
Speculate,
inspector.
I
I informed him, that's all I can do.
Once it is habitable, I don't know if you remember Dressel.
Right.
If it's failed and it's come up on those, past those 2 years, and we could condemn it, because the housing code does say you need to have a connection to an approved, septic system,
Right,
whether it's
septic
town sewer or
sites,
private.
Right.
And if it's in failure, then it is something we could do. I mean, Dressel was a little more drastic because it was actively failing and coming up out of the ground, and people were living there.
And living there.
But then they moved out and it was bank owned, so, but yeah, there might be something, hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but we can draft a
Sounds
letter.
like we're giving them the opportunity to hold us out for another 4.5 years, though. If they file the paperwork, they can get 3 years, and that's even without us giving them another year.
But if it's an active failure, we can quicken the process. We
Yeah,
can,
Right.
You
Say
Title
it.
But we
V.
don't want that, nobody wants that to happen.
No, you have all the rights to
No,
shorten
but-
those.
Right, but nobody
windows.
wants it to fail.
No,
Right,
not with anybody living in it,
right.
obviously.
Well, it is failed.
Or
There-
even
There's,
But there's nobody living in it. I
Not
guess
yet.
it's-
Sort of living in it, that's a
Okay.
concern, right?
Is there,
Is the auxiliary property occupied, do you know?
no, it doesn't appear to be. And, I would bet that it's not on the agenda, because in the person's letter that owns the property, they said it's a future action. And they would redo the septic system, which seems, why would you do that if you're gonna have to do it anyway? Why not build it right now? Which I did tell him verbally.
what the letter's requesting is a new Title V inspection, which we're not gonna do because he needs a new septic system. It's a-
Well, he also violated Title V, he damaged it.
He
I mean, he
damaged it.
took actions that are illegal.
He worked-
You couldn't do a new inspection because what you're looking at isn't right. I mean, it has been tampered with.
Is there a fine for that, for?
You could, if you wished, there are fines.
So
I'd like to discuss that.
besides that, basically, we're proposing, I'm hearing that you're proposing that we cite a violation here or something, right?
Well, I don't want
Well,
to,
what would you ideally think we should vote for tonight?
you should order that a replacement septic system be designed and submitted within a reasonable period of time, 60 days, 90 days. They have the data, they collected it already, Jackson did. So you would hire, theoretically, somebody to redesign the system. I would expect to see a 5-bedroom design, since the original report said it identified 5. If it was less, then Andrea and I would do a bedroom count, and we'd go make sure and find out what it was.
And maybe 6 if they can.
If it could be 6. So, that depends on what design, what he tries to
Right.
accomplish. But what I think you do is you basically limit the time window, so it isn't next May when you find out that nothing has happened.
And the homeowner was aware that a new system is needed, not just repairs. They were well aware that just
Yeah,
repairing
I verbally informed them.
66-year-old system was not.
Yeah, the opinion that he expresses is he disagrees with this inspector's report. And as he points out in his letter, he would get a second opinion. From who? I don't know.
The law says that we do the inspection, second opinions aren't part of this. And you have a failed system, you gotta repair, replace it.
You can't prevent him from finding another inspector who might, but it doesn't solve.
And
the
he can
problem.
have a public hearing, the whole thing.
Yeah, but the truth is, if I get another opinion another report that's different than this report, I adjudicate between them. The second one goes in the trash.
It seems,
Because I can't accept something from an inspector that didn't do this job. He sold whatever he sold and, you know, so it's pointless to get a second opinion. It has to be
With
replaced.
a 56-year-old system that's cracked and full of sludge, so the baffle's not working, built for 3 bedrooms, where at least like 5, there were 5 bedrooms going on.
Five or more.
It seems, yeah, I'd like to take up.
Is there language in there, or can you suggest language for us to vote on?
Just what Roger's saying
I
is
would-
ordering.
I would like to see a design, at least within the 60 or 90 day
There you
window,
window.
and no tenant until that,
Right,
until we at least have that in hand.
Right.
Can't rent it out until at least you have a
Right.
design
Just have it
submitted to the
designed,
board.
right.
You mentioned how this could possibly drag on for years. I'm interested in, maybe Andrew, you know more about the law causes for fine, just like we do with tobacco regulation violations to impose a fine.
I don't have the code in front of me, but I'm not sure.
I have
Just to
in
show
the
you.
past seen $200 per day issued by a Board of Health to prevent or to move along the deficiency.
Is that in the code?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's limited to 200 for boards of health.
Okay.
DEP can make it 1,000.
But right now, we just wanna order them to come up with a schedule.
Come on, right.
You're gonna
Right,
replace
you
it.
don't have to give, you don't have to find it.
Right.
Yeah,
Because right now, he's
But
He's
with the
within his
with the
2-year
stipulation
window.
that he
exactly. He's
can't
got,
do anything, he can't rent it out until we at least have a
Well,
design.
We
he
have
might
it designed for
do
a
it,
5
but
bedroom.
we don't, that's another topic, I guess.
Okay. So,
Okay, so,
So you were it sounded like you were making a motion.
yeah,
Jim, just,
Jim.
Yeah,
Just everybody-
I would make a motion that we're gonna request a 5-bedroom, minimum 5-bedroom design on this property within 90 days. And
see what happens.
see what we get.
see what we get.
Well, see, we
Sometimes
got, second.
Right.
He'll submit a
Yeah,
paperwork and we'll see what happens.
right,
See what we get. See what we get for the design.
okay.
I'd like to add to that we at least, we look into, the idea of fines if any are applicable. Mainly Andrea has to look that up.
Are you adding that to the
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
Just explore the fines, not,
Yes,
we're not
yeah,
taking
because
a vote on
we
levy.
wanna-
Right now, he hasn't done any broken in.
I just
I just wanna know
I wanted to know.
Other than fixing it himself,
Other than-
which is,
Yeah, I
Which
wanna
is-
know.
He did not
it's
give,
really a different topic.
he did, that's right. He did not give the permission to do what he did.
When the letter's drafted, we'll check Title V to see what the exact language is for the authority of the Board of Health to fine how much, and we can put in there that non-compliance may result in the Board of Health
Okay.
fining her, and we'll say.
Per day. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this is serious, so, yeah. Okay.
All right, so you have
Motion and a
Jim's
second.
motion, you seconded.
A second, okay.
We need a vote, not a vote.
No, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank God these are very rare.
Yeah, I
That
I
sounds
know,
like it.
I know, that's.
Most everybody
The
fixes
worst
it or
nightmare.
replaces
You
it.
wanna fix it.
You would
Right,
think.
you would think, right, that you wanna get it done.
I mean,
Do it right.
unless you're living out of town.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Roger.
The whole
Thanks
thing
for
is
your,
student housing.
thanks for your doing your yeoman's work.
It's fun. That's a retirement job.
So,
Go to the Cape.
so important. Yeah, join your lovely
All
wife.
right,
Oh, I
So
don't
this
know.
is-
I see her.
Enjoy some sea air.
Yeah, she's down doing granddaughter duty. She,
Yeah,
she,
enjoy the
you know.
grandkids.
next.
Is she being paid $200 a day?
Mm,
I don't know.
Okay,
Okay, now you're.
so, now the next item is, proposed draft regulations, pesticide and herbicide use on town property. Town departments were invited to this meeting to discuss the use of glyphosate on town owned and operated properties. So we're gonna discuss this and vote on whether to move forward with public hearing on proposed draft regulations, which I emailed Mary that I think she sent us the regulations, Andrea, from Wellesley. And I liked what they had, although most of it was spent on exceptions to the rule, like a dozen invasives. And they were talking about an environmental conservation area, basically, in Wellesley, where they needed like a dozen exceptions because of all the, you know, bitter olive and hawthorn and all this stuff that you might need herbicide to.
We also
Can we
have
just
draft
back up,
language.
can I back up for just a quick sec, just so that we can know who is online? We invited a lot of folks from different
Right,
departments to
so
come.
let's
We
see
have
who's here.
some people here in person, thank you
Let's
for
see
being here,
who's
but
here.
it looks to me like we also have
Who's-
department and other folks that were
Who's
invited.
here?
I know you've been waiting for a while, so you
Patiently.
go ahead and.
Who is here in person?
I hope you enjoyed the comments on Title V.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. So, here are the nice women who are here. What,
And then.
Okay.
Online.
what is your name?
I'm Cindy Harbison. I'm the director of the Clut Memorial Library.
Oh, okay, thank you for coming.
My name is Julie Meyer. I'm the new conservation administrator.
Well, thank you for coming, yeah.
I'm Linda Leduc, I'm the DPW director.
And we talked on the phone.
Relatively new.
3 years.
3 years,
Well,
yeah, where we going? It's been years.
Yeah, you were
3
very
years.
helpful when we talked on the phone.
Well,
Linda.
yeah, just
thank
shy.
you. Okay. And you folks in the back, who just people here to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm John Proctor, homeowner on Warner Street here in town.
Oh, Warner Street. What number, man? I used to live at 131.
It was across the street almost from me up on the hill.
Oh, you're up on the hill.
Yeah.
Nice.
We moved on soon after we moved in. Didn't get to know you too well.
Yeah, I've not lived there.
Recognize the name.
I've not lived there since 1999. Great. Well, nice to have you.
Thank you.
Online, Zoom, who we got? Kyle.
Yep, Kyle Tebow from the Belchertown Recreation Department.
Oh, I recognize you. Great. Thank you for coming. And we got Brian. Brian, are you a resident or this is Brian? Brian, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Brian Cameron, Superintendent.
Oh, okay. You're superintendent of schools?
Yep.
Thank you.
Senior, looks like maybe senior center?
Someone from the senior center?
Maybe.
Anybody from the senior center or someone named senior? Or you want to tell us who you are? Okay, and then there's a resident. May I ask who you are?
Well,
Okay.
All right.
They're not
That's okay.
legally required.
They're not legally required, the BCTV and the Okay. So, very good. So,
We also have a proposed regulation for
Yes.
Belchertown draft.
yes.
No.
And where is that?
Guess we should ask these people what they.
Yeah, I
Yeah, have you had a
definitely think-
chance to look at it? Yes, okay.
Yeah, I really want to hear what you folks are the experts. I want to hear what, Linda, you want to start in what you think of that, the proposed regulation and,
Sure.
Yeah.
Actually, if I could ask you guys a question first, I'm just wondering what instigated this, this draft and this effort.
So ever since I've lived in town as a doc, especially, I've been interested in environmental issues. And I've been reading and hearing more and more about potential harms of chemical herbicides and pesticides, effects especially on unborn children, on pediatrician, carcinogenicity. I read about other towns, and some municipalities banning them completely, even on private property. And so I've gotten more and more interested in that area. I've always personally had my own yard without any use of any of these herbicides and have a beautiful yard. So, I researched it further, I also write a column for the Daily Hampshire Gazette, so in that capacity I did a thorough lit search about the health effects and found a lot of scary issues like proximity to golf courses being associated with incidence of Parkinson's disease, and Parkinson's disease growing. I had I read about the exposures to pregnant people and risk of brain tumors and lymphomas in children. And my last 2 years as a pediatrician, I sadly had 3 patients. 2 of them were mine, and one of them I just had diagnosed, actually, die of brain tumors. 2 of them were very young. So that's what
Okay, thanks for
got
sharing
me
that.
going. Yeah. So,
I'd be happy to start. I looked over the draft. I noticed that it was a verbatim from South Hadley, so I'm wondering if that's where, this came from.
that's true too. We looked at the regulations around and we found South Hadley.
And you and I had a phone call at
Yeah.
length,
Yeah,
a
about
couple
that.
months ago, I think, maybe when you
Yeah.
might have started, this effort. I can tell you that the DPW, there are 3 of us on staff that have our core pesticide applicator licenses. It does come with the DPW director's job description. So, assuming to say whatever DPW director you have in town has that applicator's license. That all being said, we don't actually apply pesticides ourselves. When we have an area that needs some treatment, we
Pesticides or herbicides, right?
sorry.
Pesticides or herbicides. I
Well,
use
the word pesticide covers it all.
covers herbicides.
So
Okay.
when I say pesticide, I mean
Okay,
talking
so
about,
that's why we have that
glyphosate
on our thing.
specifically tonight.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
But of course, there's, many others. So, we have contracted for pesticides to be applied. In my 3 years here, it's been to treat Japanese knotweed, which is a horrific invasive. Once it's established, it's almost, impossible to get rid of. So in a couple of the one of the subdivisions that we recently took, there was a substantial stand in 2 areas. I had asked the developer prior to the town taking it at town meeting that they make sure that that is managed. I cannot take on a property that we are going to then, own and maintain when it's got some significant knotweed growing. So they agreed to it. I don't know what they're applying, but I assume they're using glyphosate. It's one of the most, it's the best pesticide to, use on that type of invasive.
So this is a developer, you said?
And there was one application this spring. They are gonna have to do another one, either this summer or fall. I also had one treatment that needed to be done at the detention basin at the new pickleball court. The contractor that was doing the work for us brought in soils that had knotweed roots in it. So the next thing I know, I've got little knotweeds growing in a basin that we might mow during the season 4 times a year. Mowing can be a good way of controlling it, but not if you're not doing it regularly. So I did contract with an environmental firm, and they did one treatment, and that took care of it. So that was great. We also have a vegetation management plan that was sent over to you all last December, and we have a yearly operational plan, YOP, that we were approved by MDR in January. That is to treat one section on State Street where the railroad tracks are, and there's guardrail on either side. We have a sidewalk on one side of the road.
Right.
That is a very difficult area for us to mow and maintain, and every year before the fair, and this time of year, or into early September, we really knock that down. There's a lot of poison ivy that grows. It grows over the guardrail, it grows under the guardrail. There's sumacs, there's other taller vegetation that leans over. So when people are actually walking on the sidewalk, they kind of almost have to walk in the road. So that is an area that I try to make sure is trimmed back nicely, so it is safe for pedestrians. That is the only area in our YOP that we would treat with a pesticide. And we actually are planning on getting our contractor in within the next month. We have to advertise 21-day public hearing. You guys you'll hear about it. But that is the extent of our use of pesticides. We don't have any, I don't store any. And I did want to comment on the section in the draft that called out for the DPW director to be collector. Let's see, we're on page 2.
The second page, yeah.
Under protocol, letter C. All glyphosate-based herbicide products currently stored in or on town-owned premises shall be compiled by the Director of Public Works or Solid Waste Coordinator, who shall have the authority to dispose of any such products, including all GBHs, through a Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection approved method. I don't think that that is fair to put the responsibility on one person in particular, but certainly someone who has to hold a core applicator's license. The responsibility, once you have that license, now I'm gonna have to have an inventory. I have to have a safe storage space. And then it costs money to dispose of. So if I'm gonna say I think with the little amount of pesticide that we use in the department, I'm thinking that this ban is gonna really limit how we can manage getting at those aggressive invasives.
How would you rewrite that? Just delete it?
Well, if you wanted to pursue it, I would say solid waste coordinator, and then that's on the Board of Health to figure out who that is.
So but it didn't seem like that would be much of a problem, because you said you don't store any of this around anyway. You basically just get it if it's absolutely necessary, and a hired applicator is the one that does the job. There's none of this is stored anyway.
Correct.
So that it seems like that wouldn't be a reason to worry, because the town's not keeping it.
Well, I think if you put anything in writing, it puts a liability
Oh,
on
yeah.
someone and a responsibility on someone. And I'm just saying, I don't think that is, if you're gonna work through this draft and wanna continue on it, I think you take the DPW out of it.
Take C out.
It's just not, it's not in my department's,
Right.
I don't
And
have,
it wouldn't even necessarily be the DPW property, it could be the school property or something.
right, I'm just saying, if you're gonna,
Okay.
I'm asking that
So
the
we-
Department of Public Works
we
Director be
take a look
removed
at
from
that.
having the responsibility if it should happen.
Right. Just a question on State Street. You mentioned you cut back vegetation. So in cutting back the vegetation, why do you need to spray it too? You're cutting it back anyway, right?
Yeah, but we can't, once you have a guardrail, we can't get under the
You can't get
guardrail or
under that.
between
Is
it.
that where it's,
We have a tractor that goes around with the arm that comes around, and we can mow on the other side of guardrails.
yeah,
But I was trying to think anywhere in town other than this one that actually has a sidewalk next to it. So what we're dealing with is vegetation that's growing through it, over it, and with the poison ivy being the main creeper, under it and over it, that is, concerning. It's just something that needs to be controlled.
and then this is a public sidewalk. What precautions are taken for public safety that if people are walking there? You spray there if it's a sidewalk. So what about the people that are walking there after it's sprayed?
Well, it's noticed, it will be noticed that we are applying the pesticide. There will be times, it'll be, stated when the time is. I don't know what they're gonna be using, but there is a good chance they're gonna be using glyphosate. And within our YOP, it is actually listed as one of those pesticides it's approved by MDR. So, we will only use approved MDR pesticides, and that is one of them. It's one of the best pesticides, foliar applications that is non-selective and doesn't, isn't a residue in the soils. So, it's life span is short-lived compared to others. And it's a one and done. It isn't, let's see how this works, and now we go back and we apply a different pesticide. It's labor intensive. It is not an area that I can just mow.
Right, I think you mentioned that, McCollum, this area, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was very careful to make sure that there's a couple of paragraphs on exceptions. So if we approve this document as it's written, and I have a bunch of other questions about it, but if we approve this as it's written, then we could merely decide, or in any given year, this board could decide to grant an exception for that particular location. There's no, other than we then have more talking to do at some point.
I mean, I would.
The regulation itself, though, in effect, you could accept as long as we authorize exceptions. And obviously, since there's a health issue involved in not doing it, because people can get poison ivy, then that would be something to toss around here, I guess, if we chose to accept this.
Yeah, I mean-
Well, hearing what Linda was saying, I would agree. I think those two exemption things, maybe we look at other models as well, just because I don't know. I wonder, based on what you said, and I walk over on that sidewalk a lot, and I see that as I'm walking down to, anyway. And other parts of town too, where, behind the library, knotweed and all kinds of stuff. But I guess I would just recommend that if we're gonna continue the conversation, and as we're hearing from people tonight, that maybe there's some additional language to look at around exemptions, just how are they done? What's the basis for them, like any regulations, typically you have some way for people to request something that varies from what
Yeah, well, it's right.
the rest of it is.
Exemptions are written.
Yeah, maybe
Sure,
some more,
but
you're
maybe
suggesting more detail.
I guess maybe
and-
more,
and-
or looking at other examples from other
hash
towns.
around the.
What do they lay out as acceptable, or the process for, making that kind of exemption? Just a thought to take a look at what other communities have done. I know this one is modeled mostly after the South Hadley, but just to see if there's any other language that some other community adds to or describes the exemption process with
Yeah.
some additional language.
Well, there's some, what Mary sent to us, the regulation in Wellesley was an exemptions, and exemptions for like a dozen invasives.
Have either of you talked to Sharon Hart, the health director in South Hadley, and found out how this has worked? It might be useful.
Talked to members of the Board of Health who said this has worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let,
I just have
Say
one more point I want
Yeah,
to emphasize to you all. The DPW, when we're going at an invasive, we need to get it done. We don't have the luxury or the time, the labor, the money to try something and let's see if it works. I know, that's mentioned in the draft that, Board of Health would expect, let's try this and let's try this. And until it's proven it doesn't work, you'll consider an exemption. That I don't think is reasonable from.
Well, we could give an exemption in January for the whole year. I mean,
Yeah, but if the way it's written,
oh,
you're saying
Right.
try more organic methods. And if they don't work, we'll think about it. We don't have the luxury of trying things to see if it works. If we can get a one and done, then, that saves time, money, and labor for everybody.
I'm not seeing, where do you see that in writing? I'm not seeing that you have to try it. I mean, in general, it's like the state.
Well, if you look at B, it does say granted after all non-toxic.
Organic land methodology, so
Exemptions.
Under the exemptions part.
it should be I think this is just what NOFA said. It's just what the state regulations say. It said organic or integrated pest management. I would prefer integrated versus organic, but anyway, it's just saying that would in general be the methodology of choice, but there can be exceptions. It doesn't say you have to try
Yeah, it's sort of,
using.
you could
Well,
read
in
the
B-
second sentence in B as,
It uses the word
Under
shall,
the exemption,
which
yeah,
is
section B.
not usually a choice.
Is not really giving them a choice. that
okay, we
they
should,
have
we
to-
should,
Okay,
we should
well,
hash
that's good
around that
for us to
language too.
Okay.
think more about.
You have to present like, for any use of a herbicide, there has to be like a notice to the public and everything.
Yep,
And there could be public comments and everything, so there's,
and we did all of that.
so you have to go
Yeah.
through that anyway, it's not like this is all automatic.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our YOP, we
So
had
for
to
the
do
wire,
that.
yeah, okay.
And, but just making a note in your draft that's, I would look at that.
And especially poison ivy, on a personal note, I've lived in town for 40 years, and I've used 30% acid and some salt and we'll tablespoon detergent, which works fine on everything, every invasive I've had, unless it's woody, of course, you have to cut it, or poison ivy.
Well,
Poison
that's
ivy
great,
just-
because to be honest, I think the glyphosate use is residential. You can go and
Terrible.
buy the Roundup at Tractor Supply and Home Depot and everyone, and that's maybe where people think it's safe because you can buy it off the shelf. But if you're following the directions and you're wearing your PPE and when we hire people, they absolutely have to, I think the risks outweigh, the harm of doing
I mean, the
few
benefits,
numbers of applications that the town doesn't.
yeah, versus what residents do, that's the big.
Residences.
Has any, I'm just curious, has any DPW ever considered using the recipe that I talked about? I mean, everything smells like vinegar for a day, but as far as it really works. I'm telling you, it kills anything.
Maybe we should go out and do it before they do it, and see what happens.
Someone should do a study.
Take notes and get
It
back
has
to
to
me.
be 30% acidic acid, it should be rock salt, but it kills anything. Anyway. All right, so I want to get everyone else's comments
Yeah.
though. Would you like to give us your name again?
Yeah, sure. My name's Julie.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for coming. Yeah, Julie, so would you like to say anything?
Sure. Well, I think it's great that you guys are hashing out this topic in inviting various viewpoints, because I do think there are a range of perspectives on
Yeah.
applying pesticides. I was a landscaper for 25 years before I
Okay.
started working in municipal conservation. And I was the person that sent around the Wellesley example, because that's the town I had just worked in, as
Oh,
just
okay.
an example of like
Which was
how
good.
that town did it. Not to say it's some kind of great town. I think the idea that you're asking to look around at other towns and how they've managed this question is really smart. So good for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, it's also very rare in this state.
Yeah, I think it takes time though to come up with a plan that isn't gonna, solve one problem and then create another.
Create another, right.
I mean, I think there's this thing that
Absolutely.
happens with even like looking at invasive species, we tend to like demonize a particular like bad plant and then we like go at it. And it's usually there for lots of reasons culturally, and practices that you can do to
Right.
prevent the, these particular plants that we're putting pesticides on there are many options besides, just the pesticides, education, mechanical means,
Right,
timing it, making sure that the fill is clean when it comes in and not, we can like inspect at that level.
right.
So from the conservation hat, we have two avenues. We have like wetland permits and we have conservation open space land that the Conservation Commission manages and stewards. And the wetlands permits that come through, so for anybody, a private or the town itself that has a order of conditions, a wetlands permit to do work near water, there is almost always a provision in there that does say already a prohibition against the use of pesticides.
Mhm.
But sometimes, and I've only been here for 3 months, so I don't have a vast knowledge of all the different permits, but I did sort of do a quick look through in the network drive to see like if I can find examples. I'm sure that there's examples, especially on public open space, where there is a need to manage an invasive species or 10. And typically what other towns do, they come in with a invasive species management plan. They're like, this is what we want to do. This is our rationale. this is our method, and these are the materials that we're gonna use, and the calendar that we're gonna do it on. And that's kind of a more thoughtful approach than I think a straight ban I've seen, because it turns out that you turn your head and, you know,
It gets away from it.
and also like whatever that you've permitted, they're gonna spray the stuff because it hasn't been really thought through. So it takes longer to come up with that kind of thing, but that would be just my, hope that if you're hashing this out, you look at other like examples of where people have come up with sort of a yes and approach. You know, that's one of the tools in the toolbox, but maybe it's there for thoughtful reasons. Because sometimes I think it does make sense. And sometimes, you know, it can be just like a quick Band-Aid. And sometimes, you know, when you have a vast amount of land, it is actually the labor. I would say having extreme, I'm probably gonna have poison ivy tomorrow. It's just this afternoon I was out in it. I'd like look at it.
You
and
weren't
get it.
walking on State Street, were you?
No, I was looking at like a beaver situation. I'm like, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
Do you keep any techno at home? I use.
It doesn't work for me. So point is like, I have also applied all these non-toxic options. And
Yeah.
I was one of the first like NOFA accredited landscape, land care
Oh, really?
accreditation.
Cool.
When they started that program, and it's very much like one perspective, which is kind of like the direction I think the tone of this draft, which is like just no. But since then, I've seen, you know, a lot of thoughtful approaches that do make sense and have influenced me to where I might consider it, and have in rare occasions thought it made sense because of the vast amount of it. The labor and the cost just is extreme to have to keep coming back with, you know, with a non-pesticide approach.
Oh my God, I mean, on my 2 acres, I do my own gardening. I'm out there all the time cutting back bitter olive and hawthorn. I hate that stuff so bad.
It takes a lot of time.
So the thing I'm interested about is the Wellesley regulation. I mean, they say, well, we'll limit to organic, except for these invasive species. I think they limited, I think they listed 10, including Norway maple, which you could say, that's just another kind of maple tree. And it sounds like in Wellesley, they're using a lot more pesticide than like Linda's talking about DPW using it, just with 3 exceptions. They're
So
using a lot.
that was a greenway through the
Yeah.
center of town, very public, very, you know,
Yeah,
tons
very
of people
reasonable.
on it. So that was just one of many parcels in town.
Okay,
And that was one plan that had one set of species. So they identified which were the problem species and how
Yeah.
they were gonna approach it.
a lot
And
of
that's
them.
how they came up with the plan, which was accepted by a multi-stakeholder group. You know, it
I
wasn't
see.
just the Board of Health. It had other people who had
I
interests
see.
in these
Right.
things.
Right.
I think that's
Cross
another thing that worked,
departments
made
and- right.
compliance easier.
Right.
But of course, it took probably a long time to work out. But, you know, and in another case, they would say maybe no pesticides. Or in another
Yeah.
case, because like, you know, along the rights of way, we need the pesticides, or along the railroads or something, you need to do it. And all these programs, they're also, you know, regulated at the state level
Of course. Yeah.
for like the yearly operational plans that the town has to submit to the
I
state.
see.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Great,
Yeah,
that's
thanks for
helpful.
that.
Yeah,
To hear.
That's very good to hear that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more specifics about alternatives that you kind of hinted at. I don't mean tonight. I mean-
I think the alternative is to take time and look at each circumstance, what is, you know, is this, you know, like map out, like where are the hot spots that you're most concerned about? And is this ban really the best? Is this the best direction? Because it might be, and it might be the right way, and it might be that maybe we can look at it and go, huh? Because on the conservation lands, I didn't mention the conservation lands, but you know, there's quite a few. Many of them already have inside them permissions
Right.
that have been worked into the conservation restriction from like the land trust or the conservation commission itself. You may use these pesticides, or may say you may use pesticides in a limited way. So you don't want to create necessarily a conflict with something that's already been
Already in
approved,
place.
you know, and there's quite a bit of land out there to have to go out and use, you know, labor to manage.
Mm.
So just with respect for the budget, that's something to, I think, try to balance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
definitely, because that's the one thing, like, you know, you do that for State Street, say it's one and done for the year, you don't have to go back to it. Using something else, you don't have the manpower to do that 3-4 times in the course of the summer.
Yeah.
So now it's gonna get away. from you, because you can't control it with one or two applications.
And I think if you're using one application,
You
you're
gotta-
using the least amount of pesticide
Right,
anyway.
right,
Right.
right. Multiple applications is defeating the purpose, right, yeah, right. Okay.
I
Can I
want
ask
to,
just one question?
yeah,
What, I was curious why you are looking at the glyphosate as like the one thing that you're thinking of banning compared to like another approach,
well, no, I think
banning everything.
maybe it has to be rewritten. We're talking about use of chemical herbicides. This is very similar to state regulation when you're looking at integrated pest management as the first option and use chemical pesticides only when necessary. Just, just like I'm saying, it's necessary here. It's really restating the state position, but maybe a little bit stronger language, I don't know. But it's really saying the first option should be non-chemical, chemical only when necessary. That's what I want to hear. Brian,
We have another.
yeah, I want to hear what Kyle
Our
and Brian.
librarian here too.
Yeah, right. Is our,
No, you're.
it's
Here, in front of you.
Here.
I know, I wanted to get to you.
can go to them
But,
first.
but I just want to make sure that our superintendent of schools is still here.
Is he on? Upper right,
Yeah,
Upper right, right.
Yeah, he moved his box.
Yeah, if you mind, because
And
I'd
you're
like to
right.
ask, do you mind if I go ahead and ask Brian
No, absolutely.
first? Because the schools are relevant, because in my conversation with folks, this,
He's on.
the high school ball field was the issue. The one, I think it's the same ball field, Brian, that's unfortunately closed now because of our drought. But when we talked before, I understood that an herbicide was used there because there are weeds on it, and the parents of athletes really like a prettier field than a weed containing field. Am I right?
Yeah, so, yeah, no fields have been shut down yet, so I just want to clarify that.
Okay, I'm just
but I'm
going what I
gonna-
read in the San Home Gazette, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn it over to Eric LeBeau. He was able to get in.
Oh, is Eric,
He's the
is Eric
director
here?
Oh, he
Okay,
is there.
of Buildings.
okay,
and
Eric, you're the one I've been talking to. So, by the way, you know that, Eric, I emailed you because you said to find out exactly what's been used, go to the IPM plan from state, go to the website, and the website, going down to schools, it said, no, you need to ask the school superintendent, school personnel. So it's back to you as far as what is being used.
Yeah, so the IPM plan for the schools is listed on the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural website per regulations of Massachusetts. In the IPM plan, it states what products are used, why they're used, when they're used, how they're used. So
No,
all the
excuse me,
products
that's
are
what I'm
listed in
trying to, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I clicked on that link you gave me. I went down the line to under schools to what's used, and it was grayed out. It said this where you have to ask school personnel about that.
Okay, I'm
According
not
to
sure if
the
you got
website.
not sure if you got my follow-up email. It said, if
Oh,
you're
you-
still unable to get it, I'll send you a list. But none of the
Okay.
products that are used on the fields contain the product in question. The stadium field has not received any herbicides whatsoever. That field has only gotten fertilizer.
Yeah, my worry was just about a field that just has weeds, which might annoy some parents, but doesn't get in the way of play. It seems like it's not a good reason to use a chemical fertilizer, which may have harmful health effects, is what I was getting at.
I gotcha. Yeah. So if you go to the high school field, which I would recommend you do, and you look at the upper soccer field next to the parking lot, and you look down at the stadium field, the upper parking lot field, we've been working for about a year with True Green, which has had weed control, and the lower field has not. It's like night and day. The field is healthy. It's soft. It's smooth to run on. There's no ruts. It's not
Okay.
overrun by crabgrass. And that field has only received, I think, 2 applications in the last 14 months. So it's not like we're applying it all the time. It's literally like every 6 to 8 months.
Two applications of what?
herbicide and fertilizer.
And you said you could send me, if I can't find it on the website. which
Yeah, I
couldn't,
can send you
me
the entire
the
list.
list.
So in the
Yeah,
fall,
thank you.
there's a fertilizer and pre-emergent placed in the springtime, right after
Yeah.
we have to get out of winter season. And then we're just getting ready now to, as we head into the fall season, we're getting ready to do the second round.
Okay. All right.
Two other people, yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. Anything else you need to say, Eric or Brian? As far as the proposed regulation,
Yeah, I would just say that the plan, like the lady in the audience was talking about for Wellesley, that's pretty much what the IPM plan is. It goes over what products are used, why they're used, when they're used, how they're used, and for exactly what weeds they're trying to control.
Okay, and the reason that those weeds need to be controlled, hopefully it's not just cosmetics, it's making the field more playable and the field healthier.
Yeah, I mean, overall, the goal is to make the field safe.
Safe.
When we're not controlling the weeds take over the field, the grass dies out, and the field is dry and unsafe to play on.
Okay.
Okay. Question. I generally am most concerned about the youngest children. We have 3 playgrounds on the school campus. You're talking here about the high school fields, but what about the areas where the little kids are playing?
No, so I don't manage those fields, and we
Who
don't
does?
we don't use any kind of herbicides on the playgrounds. So it's either rec department or DPW who maintains them.
Okay, well, they're here tonight.
And we have Kyle here. Well, Kyle, do you want to pipe in next? Kyle, are you there? From the rec department?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll come back.
We'll come, maybe he went to the bathroom. Thank you for coming. Can you just tell me your name? I should remember your name.
It's okay, Cindy Harbison.
Of course, Cindy. I'm so bad with names. I
That's
know
okay.
you, but I know your face. So what did you want to say about it?
So I just had a question, because it calls out in the protocol A, the library board of trustees and prohibited on town-owned / operated. So the library, and then later it says that it's exempt from private land. So the library building and grounds are not owned by the town. So I just don't know what.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of places like that.
So I don't know so that my question is just like, do we fall under, where do we fall? Do we fall under being town operated? Do we fall under it being private land? And so that was just my only question.
Yeah, if I might
So-
just add, EDIC is another kind of ambiguous, the state school property. We appoint the members of EDIC. We do not appoint the library board except for the non-voting chair of the select board, which I guess at least 2 of us have been. And who owns the property of the Little League? And somebody asked me about Lake Wallace, which I guess is part of the state school. There's kind of these ambiguous places, and we have to sort.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I can answer some of that. Sorry, I got cut off. To your question
yes.
about Lake Wallace specifically, and
Yeah.
that. So going back to previous with the ball fields around the schools, the rec manages those. The DPW will mow those. With those fields in particular, we're not using any of the chemicals in question other than just fertilizer and grass seed within those spaces. The only space that we've really done an overhaul where we added some different herbicides in the reseeding and overseeding is the back football fields in that school area back at Cronk Field. Now, once again, we work with Advanced Turf Solutions out of Holyoke, who comes in, they do soil samples, they look at what we have, and then recommend what we need within that space to get, grass to grow that comes in thick. That way the field, it's not just about looking nice, it's being able to take a beating, let the athletes and kids play on it where it prevents injuries, prevents and maintains the fields. So with that, we buy the product from them, but not to throw Linda and the DPW in this group, but we don't apply anything. We reach out to the DPW because they have people that are licensed to do that. And we provide them with all of the details of what needs to go down when, and we post everything online to the public when the applications may happen in any field that we have and manage around town. So we do utilize those licenses that Linda was referring to earlier. When you talk about Lake Wallace is under the EDIC provision and we manage the area, but underneath the restrictions that were already set by conservation and things that are there within that space. So back there, same thing, talking with the previous conservation administrator and people there. They knew exactly what we were putting down, what we were allowed to put down, and that was all kind of laid out for us. And then that was a conversation I had with the DPW on when they laid it out, making sure that we have everything posted according to plan as far as, when it needs to be posted, how long, enough time for the general public to be aware of it, and the newspapers, et cetera. So the rec in town manages different properties. As far as Little League is a private entity that was basically renting that land from the state initially. Recently, there was paperwork filed that they were turning that land over to the town of Belchertown. I'm not 100% sure if that has officially gone through yet because it was left off of the other pieces of property, like where the Sensory Garden is up top, was part of that whole process. But that Little League field was not within that grouping for whatever reason, and they were going back to rectify that. So I'm not sure where that's at, but eventually, sometime very shortly, that field is technically going to be on town property because the state is basically turning that land over to the town of Belchertown.
Which it should be for a whole lot of other reasons. What about Constantino Field? Is that yours?
Yep, Constantino, we oversee Constantino. Same thing up there. It's basically just overseeding and some fertilizer. The big thing with our fields is it's hard to really get any additional products that we would like to get down there because we don't have a water source to water it. We're at Mother Nature's discretion, and so that puts it a little bit at a disadvantage as far as what we're able to really do without wasting money to try to throw things at it where we know it won't take and that. But that is under our jurisdiction as well, meaning we manage that area up there as well.
And I guess the ball fields that are part of EDIC are EDIC land, whatever that means
So we manage the space and we maintain the fields, and DPW mows that area, but there are restrictions out there. Like if we ever wanted to try to build it up and put more fields, and if anyone came to us and said, hey, we want to put some lights back there so we can have night games, that's restricted based off the conservation restrictions with the agreement that we were to manage it, and the town runs it that way. So there are different restrictions in that specific area put in place. So you can't have a certain amount of things that would change the course of that. And I know there was a lot done previous to me taking over in 2016, or even when those ball fields were first put in, there was a lot, I think, that happened that people weren't happy about. I'm not sure. I don't have the answers to that. So that I know has happened, but since then we basically just put down, like I said, grass seed, some fertilizer to get the grass to come up, because Foley was an area that we were running into issues of. It was just mostly weeds, and it almost looked like tumbleweeds when it got to the droughts, and it was all dirt, and we were having people getting injured. So we had to try to do something to get the grass to come back in with the fields. And once again, we don't have any water source back there. Having Lake Wallace right there does probably help because the water table is probably higher in that location than others, but we don't have the luxury of watering or having an irrigation system to really put down additional, resources to help those fields. So we are limited to some amount in most areas that we're trying to maintain the field space.
Well, unfortunately, due to climate change, we'll be having more of those tumbleweed conditions, I'm afraid, more droughts.
Well,
with
and
sudden
maybe
rains.
more rain.
Well, no, the
Yeah,
problem with
yeah.
the more rain is it will come suddenly
Oh.
and too hard and fast for the ground to even absorb it, and a lot of it
Right.
will wash, and there'll be more runoff into rivers and streams. That's, what climate change is, so pretty much countrywide.
Do you want to
So
see
thank
if
you.
there's somebody senior, and see if that.
They didn't answer. I don't know. So I would say, in answer to your question, I'm not a lawyer, but, Massachusetts is one of the, 24 or 40 states that, after a lot of chemical company lobbying, said Board of Health cannot regulate any private properties at all, boards of health. So the towns can't. So if, EDIC, I think is a semi-public-private partnership, but Board of Trustees of the Belchertown Library, that it is a private organization. So I think right now, we'd have to look at, this all has to be rewritten, but I think it would not include the library as far as.
But I think, and we might even want to do this with real private entities like the Stop and Shop parking lot. Ask them, after we decide what we're doing in our own land, to voluntarily adopt the same kind of rules. But that's something we could look at after we get our act in order for our own.
Yeah. So,
and we might ask the library trustees to be good citizens of the town.
And I just will say that, when we looked at trying to get rid of our knotweed project, or knotweed problem,
Get rid of knotweed project,
we were trying, the goal was to not use herbicides on it, was to try manual labor with it first, to see if we could do that. So, I think that the trustees are committed to trying to not use chemicals on the property.
I think wherever this may go, and this is really great information tonight, but then also to then think about, are there ways to convene some meetings or conversations and encourage both homeowners as well as business. I hear what you're saying, that, any regulation can only cover, the municipally owned property, but there's ways, and I'm intrigued by this idea of an ongoing sort of conversation cross-departmentally too, about what is everybody doing, and, how are we all, trying to minimize use of things that may pose some risk, at the same time acknowledging the challenges that we face.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you guys for all taking the time to come here. You, Linda, everybody here.
Can I ask just one more?
Oh,
Because now I'm not really certain where you're headed. This draft is clearly,
Well,
this draft you presented is clearly to ban glyphosate. There are many other herbicides that can be used. Triclopyr is one that actually Roundup is trying to get glyphosate out of their, because they know that there is some bad evidence about glyphosate. It's not certain, but there's, so I think people are trying not to use it. So there's other pesticides that can be used. And I'm not sure if you're leaning towards banning all of them with exemptions or.
We're trying to learn.
Okay.
yeah, I think this was just taken
I
from
really
the
would
South
like
Hadley.
everybody just to send us,
Yeah, I think in general, I
Ideas,
thought
nothing formal, just
we would go,
digest it.
because triclopyr has its own harms too.
So we'll.
Yeah, none of them are anything you wanna wash your hands in. If
Yeah.
you use the proper, PPE, I think you can be safe around it. The glyphosate there's been cases that have been presented on these as a carcinogen. Massachusetts has not, decided to ban it outright yet, so it's still, MDR is still approved, but, which is why towns are, starting to take it on their own. But yeah, there's other pesticides that can be applied that also have some maybe.
Yes. I'm thinking when I was sitting in that chair and Jim Barry said it'll never happen again. My phone went off.
Yeah.
Conservation, are there implications for any of these alternatives, including an organic, in terms of wetlands? And that would be, in other words, you might do a great job with a lawn, but if it wound up, or in the Tri-Lakes, for example, that might be worse for some reason, and that's the kind of thing we should also know. I mean, that's why exceptions here is so important, the opportunity. And we're not gonna get all the answers, and certainly not tonight, but it's the sort of thing we should be thinking about. You might have a,
right.
you know, something that's great and really safe for the little kids to play on, and then it ruins the, I mean, you know, think of nitrates, they're great for things, but they ruin the lakes.
And it's how, you know, how well does it bind to the soil particles, so then it doesn't leach to groundwater so quickly. So there's all these characteristics, you know, to be considered on whatever you might be using.
I wanted to
Try
ask
kill vegetation.
bring up one other thing, you know, I talk about the kids, but I know that there are, some of the biggest problems involve pets. Who might be, you know, on the lawns or whatever, and there may be specific issues relating to dogs, particularly, that may not apply to humans, and we should at least be aware of it.
Now, I have just a random question on this too. Like, I'm thinking, I know they're like solar, these big solar fields, they're on private property, but they're leased by these electric companies, National Grid, whoever happens to be in the area. Now, are they doing any pesticides or anything like that to maintain growth of invasive species on their properties? Is there a way, you know, is that something we can control?
Did we see a letter from that grid in their packet?
Well, yeah, that's what got me thinking about, but that had something to do with power lines.
Yeah, their transmission.
Which we have.
But would solar, even though it's on private property, fall under the transmission part of it? And would they be putting pesticides to control invasive species? Maybe not the grass, because no, the grass 2-3 times a year.
Oh, you mean like they have a solar field?
But do they, that's running alongside a brook? Do they spray these fields
So if it's running
uncontrollably?
alongside of a brook, there's a solar field that's presumably permitted through the Conservation Commission, which, you know, is the issuing authority for the Wetlands Protection Act, which
Right.
is state, and the Wetlands Bylaw, which is Belchertown's. And there's already, you know, a whole
They're
process.
limited, no, that they're limited on what they can do on
Yeah,
that site.
if they're gonna get a permit, they have to, you know, meet some performance
Comply
standards
with
for water
those.
quality
Right.
and wetland habitat, et cetera.
Yeah, we were recommending goats.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
They can fit underneath. I mean, we talked about that a lot when we were trying to clear cut.
Cool. Yeah, I remember the goats on Warner Road.
They said cattle
Let's go and
can't
visit
do
them.
it, but goats can. So it's not gonna- You get involved in some real
Yeah.
ridiculous issues.
Doctor,
Yeah.
just one question and comment. I think most of my wife and myself's questions have been answered in the conversations back and forth, at least, you know, for this meeting. But we have, you know, a very strong interest in following how this unfolds. Obviously, it's very complicated and
Yeah.
a lot of moving parts. One question that I have, and Catherine does too, she was missed on the introduction at the beginning of the go around on the table. And, anyway, does town-owned property include the side of the road property that's reserved from homeowners in, say, a housing area or any road in town?
That's a good
Might
question.
need access.
It's a good question. It's something about an
Yeah, the
38 feet or 18 feet, some number like that.
Side.
And it might also depend on whether it's a numbered highway and whether it's a town.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
I thought so.
It is public, it's public right of way. And it,
Do we own it though?
the town owns it, yes,
Oh,
it's
okay.
part of
Easement,
the
yeah.
street right of way.
Mhm.
And that is the area that my department mows and,
Spray.
yeah, so,
Whatever.
Very
um,
nicely too, by the way, recently.
oh,
Oh, a lot better than.
but we don't spray.
Right.
We
Okay.
don't,
We just
and
mow.
you know, it's discouraging for me to drive down 181 to my house and there's this lovely stand of knotweed growing there. Or, you know, we've got garlic mustard as an understory on state property. So the invasives are really troublesome,
Okay.
but we don't apply pesticides to them.
And
It's,
and you're right,
so
they are
mowing
on the
is-
side of the road. It's just.
yeah. And the width can vary, depends. So there's no set. A lot of people think it's 15 feet from
Yeah.
the center line or 20 feet. It's
Not the
not.
case,
It
yeah.
changes, you know, as a realtor.
And the old rail trail, I'm just thinking of other property, the old rail trail, which is the, what we used to call the path. That's, I guess, town property now, complete.
Some of it, not all of it. The MCRT you're talking?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it is owned by the town, some of it is still privately owned.
Oh, well, I know there's the
Yeah.
50-foot section by the lakes and stuff. Okay.
So this proposal, we'll work on it, obviously. Maybe, Andrew, can you just chime in on how this worked? We're looking at this new regulation, gonna work on it. This was just basically lifted from South Hadley. And so how does it go procedurally from here? I mean, I could, put in my 2 cents in helping to write it, but
Yeah, I mean, essentially, this was something that
yeah.
you had spearheaded.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough information. There is no state template for us to work off of other than what other local boards of health are doing. So, it depends on what the board collectively agrees to put in the regulation. This was like a starter draft. You can
Yeah.
build off of it, remove certain things.
Yeah.
So I would need deliberation and discussion amongst the board and voting amongst the board on what specific items you want to see in the draft, what specific items you want removed from the draft, and then I can work on that from there.
I wonder if Cheryl Sabaro or MAHB could give a nice set of options. It would be a 2-year job for her though.
You see?
Massachusetts Association of Health Boards.
Oh, okay.
But that's if the board wants to move forward with
If we.
a draft regulation,
Yeah, I
which
think,
would
Well,
end
I
up
think we're
resulting
probably.
in.
I think we do.
We're likely gonna do something.
yeah, I think we
Maybe we'll
do,
just-
something like South Hadley,
Maybe just Linda and nobody else.
Yes,
It's
we'll just-
it's easier, it's easier. The true town will win, it's easiest.
Well, I'd be glad to work on it with what we've heard today, taking that into account, looking at other herbicides, potential harms, and come up with something else to discuss next time.
Yeah, and send in their suggestions.
And
to
then,
Andrea.
yeah.
We'll look at all of them because.
So
Yeah, I
should
think-
we continue?
Don't know what I'm-
Right, to be continued. For me, more information is always good.
Yep.
Looking at other examples and then thinking about even just what we've heard tonight.
How it's actually
has-
working out for them.
Right. That was the other thought I had too, that in another
Because
committee
like
I'm
South
on.
Hadley has a policy.
Right.
Their
How is it
policy,
working?
Is it working for them?
Right.
Or they're gonna be fine tuning theirs in another
Right.
year.
Right. So yeah, maybe to hear at some point at a
Right.
future meeting of the board that even if it needs, remotely have somebody who's already enacted
Sharon Hart
something
would
down
probably
the
be good
road.
at that, rather than the board members. I mean, we also. have
Sure,
Sharon
yeah,
there, But
I mean, yes, right. staff.
Should have
the
asked Rob.
directors know a lot more than the
Yeah,
board members.
yeah, that's why I was asking your advice.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert.
No, but we
Pesticides and
could ask Sharon and the
Yeah.
Yeah, we
director
can
and Wellesley and
Right.
see what their experiences are.
And
Should have
some of
asked
the other
Roger, he's
towns,
headed down to the
too.
Cape, just about every Cape.
Right, okay.
On use of,
I mean, it feels to me like more conversation is helpful, another
Yeah.
draft, we may have more conversation, and then we revise that second draft, and we revise again until we get to a point where we feel like, we are hearing everybody's thoughts is
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, I'd be
But I
glad
would
to
like
help work on another draft, send you one. And we also talked about working on education for the public. I could send something that was, All right, well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you all. Thank
Summer
you.
night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Kyle, Eric, Brian.
Anybody else there virtually?
And you're home before 9 o'clock.
Before
Hey,
sundown.
could you leave your email address or some contact on the sign-in sheet?
Oh, are you talking to us?
Both of you, yeah.
Oh.
Well, is your contact in there or just, do you have an email address?
Yeah, I didn't ask for it, so I didn't put it.
No, but I'm just thinking you probably want to be in the loop.
Yeah,
Oh, I
just to
definitely would. I
come to
just like
future
your
meetings.
approach very much. I don't know if you remember us from a couple of years ago with our neighbor who's planting apple
Yes.
trees in front of our house.
Yes.
It's now up to 14. And he sprays Roundup. In fact, he was there spraying Roundup yesterday where he could easily blunt weeds. I have a 200-foot garden in front of that, just 15 feet away, and I'm growing pollinator plants for bees and so forth. He's now wearing a respirator as he sprays that. This board, in fact, it was from Leanne Connolly. She asked, trying to help us, if Mr. Gagne would please notify us, would he be willing to notify us before he is going to spray? He told this board, yes, sitting in that seat. Our attorney, who's trying to, he came with us to try to help both sides because we were going to even ask if he would move his trees, we would pay to move them to just get them further away from our property. Our attorney went out to that hallway and told him, if you would just work and communicate with your neighbor, things would go much better. And he said, I have no intention of telling them when I am going to spray, and you can go F yourself.
Wow.
That was unfriendly.
It was very unfriendly. And furthermore, he lied to this board when he said that he would let us know, so that we could at least avoid the area, because he mows and I weed, and his trees are right on the other side. The other thing that he is doing, which I had her predecessor come up and look at, he is now, for the last 2 years, he is letting all manner of weeds and invasives, bittersweet, growing to this height that's invading on my property that I have to cut. And he's doing that on purpose, whereas he keeps another side of his mowed. So I have that I'm dealing with this individual. So the pesticides that he is spraying, Roundup, 7, the fact that we're home, yep. He sprays on windy days. I am a trained weather spotter for the National Weather Service, and I keep track of when winds are blowing. He sprays when it's 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. We are downwind of him. So I am so happy, Dr. Noxian, that you have taken up this initiative with the town. I would love to see this extended to at least individuals who are planting apple orchards in a residential community, to where I'm going to be flooded with clouds of pesticide coming into. I've already had drift. I did report it a couple of years ago to Taryn Glassfola, who is the director for crop and pesticide management. And I will continue to when I see that.
Unfortunately, we believe that the state law prohibits us from regulating this for private property. And it's one thing to go to Stop and Shop and say, are you willing to voluntarily cooperate?
There's the legislation to maybe change that.
I would hope
To,
so. I mean,
so-
are some of these other towns, are they able to?
I don't know,
Require that?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Put your email down.
Yes.
The problem with not being able to regulate it, and I know you have no control over it right now, is that's where the worst abuses are taking place. You know, if it's somebody out there with a
Private land.
thing, that's, not a big deal. It's like taking care of houseplants, but
I don't know if this might fall under a neighbor doing something that's really a public nuisance, but I don't know the law behind that. Andrea might know better.
yeah.
And I don't know if that falls under our purview or not.
Probably not.
That's
This would be more like a civil matter.
Yeah.
civil, like
But again, that's where the
Small
worst
claims
abuse
court.
is taking place.
Yeah.
I mean,
small claims
you know,
court or
trucks
something.
come up and spray like just an hour road alone,
Thank you.
spray like it's a 5-alarm fire
Yeah.
up on the roofs of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, didn't you live on Warner Street?
No, I never remember that.
I think we could continue this conversation, but I'd like to make
No, just.
a motion
Oh,
to.
before you adjourn, I wanna raise one topic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. Did you want to?
You didn't want to say anything else?
No, I just really appreciate that you're listening, and I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
that the board tried to make that effort to help us 2 years ago in June
Oh,
of
sorry, but-
2024, and that we live next to somebody with that attitude. And I do
sorry.
understand it's private property, and that he can spray, and that he's not commercial, and doesn't have to be licensed. I understand all of that, and I think just a little common kindness and courtesy to an abutting neighbor would certainly be helpful, so that we can at least avoid the area and not be
Of
there.
course.
And if there was any way that this town could do something for, I mean, this is very unusual for somebody to come into, and you remember that field, Dr. Gutsy.
Yes, of course.
And, you know, that's a flag lot. We've lived here for over 30 years. That was kept mowed so that everybody could enjoy a view, and this neighbor came, and in 2023, he started planting apple trees, and he said, I'm putting them right in front of your house, and that's what brought us to Andrea, because we had the concern about our septic, but primarily the pesticide spraying in there. So, and he just keeps planting more trees, and this is not like somebody's spraying cracks in their driveway with a little bit of Roundup. I mean, you're talking spray around big apple trees with this Roundup and the 7, and if he's wearing a respirator, that tells you something that he's concerned himself about the harmful effects of that. And his home itself is hundreds of feet away, so there is no impact on him. We're downwind of him. So it's a concern to us.
You know, I know the owner of Clark Orchards, the one in Deerfield. I don't think they ever use stuff like that. Bill Clark is a friend of mine, marched with him in the food bank. It's huge orchard, you know, huge. And I don't believe they use stuff like that.
I don't
They
think
use
probably.
integrated management, yeah. So, okay, yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Ben Clark, I'm sorry, the good, we call him, the good Ben Clark. Yeah, he owns Clark Orchards, yeah, that's his dad, yeah. Anyway, so, yeah. Okay, good.
Unrelated topic. Andrea, did you want to say something about the nurse? We don't have one.
No, she resigned last week.
We just hired her, right?
Yes, it had nothing to do with the job.
Not the job, she loved the
And only
job.
praise for Andrea.
Personal.
Just
Just
personal
some
matters
family
Oh,
stuff
sorry.
to
to
take
deal
care
with,
of.
yeah, so just may not have been the right time to start a new position.
So it continues.
Yeah, yes, I have a meeting with the district officers this week to discuss the next steps.
That would be
on
me.
hiring. Yeah, Ken is our secretary.
One from each of the 3 towns.
From each of the 3 towns, yeah, I know.
I just thought
All right, well, I
that
make
people
a,
should be aware of that.
yeah, thanks. I make a motion to adjourn.
Did we do everything else on the
Did
agenda?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we did the
We
minutes
did the
first.
minutes.
Signed all of it.
Did we sign the warrant and the funeral director
Funeral-
license?
I'll second that.
By the way, the funeral director license does not have a name on it.
Does it?
No. We signed it anyway, so you can become the funeral director.
Okay.
Okay, all right, seconded, do I hear aye?
Aye. All
Okay,
those
so
in favor,
adjourned,
aye.
at making my first meeting as chairperson, like a marathon session. Thank you, guys.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
All right. Oh.